So, Brian, this next one that you put on here, I almost covered it a few weeks ago as well. And I was like, yes, this is really interesting. But then I don't know, something else, like there was a shiny object and it pulled my attention away. So yeah, this is a bit of a philosophical one.
So this is we're linking to just a short little article, but I wanted to talk about the topic. So it's the article is called "Coding is 90% Google Searching: A Brief Note to Beginners." And there's really not much here other than saying that, I guess there's 3 points in trying to learning how to program, and a couple of them are good in that just pick one language to start with when you're learning how to program, and of course pick Python, and then do a project, like try to do a project, and those are great ideas. And then the third point is anytime you get stuck, Google it. And the point of the article really is, I think, that coding is 90% Google searching anyway. So, and people don't usually tell beginners that. And I don't think I agree with this. I was wondering what you think of this.
I don't think I agree with it either, but I'm not sure I agree with, excuse me, I'm not sure I agree with you yet either. So let's talk about it, because it is interesting, and we probably do agree, honestly. I think programming developer career evolution goes through phases and seasons and whatnot. I think in the beginning, you're just super lost. You just start trying to figure out syntax and whatever. And then you feel really good because, I really got the syntax figured out. And it turns out like that's a minor part of programming. Now you got like tracking down bugs and using libraries. And you're like, I got to learn what SQL Alchemy is. Oh my gosh. What is a migration? Okay. Google migration. How do I do migrations? Well, this isn't working. Let me Google and up at Stack Overflow. And in that sort of stage where you've crossed over, I'm kind of a competent language user of the language, but I'm not really the world is actually open and all these libraries and packages are out there. And I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't even know what third normal form is. So I better figure that out because it says I need it in my design for my SQL Alchemy classes or whatever. I think in that season of your career, I kind of agree with this. You're just Googling like crazy, and it's okay, because Google is really good and the resources out there are really good. But when I saw this article, I thought, okay, that's a pretty good message to people who are kind of new. You hear how horrible it is to do copy and paste coding, and yet this person is saying they were in, I think a couple of years into their career. They're like, look, I do this a lot and I don't feel like I'm cheating or whatever. And yet I don't feel like, if I had to put a number on it, I would say coding is 5% Google searching for me these days, 5 to 10, depending on what. If it's something new I'm doing, it's probably 10% to 15. But most day-to-day work, it's 5% or less. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I guess I definitely agree. For instance, picking up a new framework or something, I'm going to be looking it up a lot.
Right. There's little spikes as you adopt a new thing, but then it really goes back down, right?
But I was paying attention, so I was thinking about this for the last couple of weeks and paying attention to my coding style. And there's probably at least a handful of times during the day where I'm Googling something, but it isn't like everything. It's definitely more of a 5% thing or less. And and then I realized that a lot of the things I'm Googling is stuff that I've just decided to not memorize.
Right.
Like the syntax of weird things, I'm pretty sure that I can have a step size in range, the range function, but I don't use it very often. Well, what's that again? Things like that, like little extra stuff. And a lot of this stuff, editor support really helps anyway. If I already know kind of what I'm doing, the editor can pop up what the syntax is.
That's a really good point, because if I was using just pure Emacs or something that had zero autocomplete, I'd be Googling more for sure. Yeah. But in PyCharm, you hit dot and there's 3 choices, then it tells you the parameters. You don't need to Google for that stuff anymore because you got the better tooling.
Yeah, and there's then different stuff I guess so the syntax I leave to the IDE a lot, but there's definitely a skill. So one of the things that that kind of missed out of this article is it's not that that Google searching is 90% of coding. It's to me it's that it's a big chunk of your skill set is to learn how to Google something effectively. So in coding, like the instead of trying to summarize what the error message is and then Googling that, just paste the entire error message in. That's like one trick to do. So there's a whole bunch of coding Google tricks to find the information fast, because I don't want it to be 90% of the time. I want something that I kind of think I remember to be able to look that up in just seconds and then go back to coding again. So yeah, I hope it's not 90%. That would be a very slow way to code. But yeah,
it would be. But I remember that being the case back in the day. And for me, it wasn't Googling, because I think we had, when I was first doing programming, you'll have to see if you can remember yours, but I was using Alta Vista, I'm pretty sure. Right? Like, people who are listening who don't know what that is, that was a search engine that was nowhere near as good as Google that existed before Google. So I remember, like, but the things you would end up, there was not Stack Overflow to search from and all those sorts of things. And so it was a lot of books and a lot of user groups, not user groups, like Usenet groups, whatever those were called. And so there was a lot of like reference research stuff in the early days for me as well. And I wish there was Google. I could have done a lot more effective Google searching. But certainly I think that is a just past stage one of your career. This is a reasonable way to see the world. But you're right, it's absolutely a skill, and the more effective you can be at narrowing in, the better. But then I think it actually is, if people are living that life now, like I'm Googling all the time, this just must be like the rest of my life, I'm going to just do this. That won't be the way it is.
So, I'm thinking back in my memory, though, when I learned to program, there was no internet. So there was, or if there was, I didn't have access to it. So early 90s, late 80s, it was books. So I had references, and still, even through my career, early career, I had a couple books that I would rely on because I knew how to look things up quickly. So I had for instance, I had like a sticky note right where the printf translator thing. So if I knew how printf and scanf, what those little percent signs were and all that stuff. So anyway.
That's a really good point. Yeah. So I remember I had a C++ primer or something like that. And boy, that thing was all tattered, and I use that a lot as well. Yeah. But it's not that way either. It doesn't matter whether it's a book or Google or whatever. It's a phase, but it's not all of coding for the rest of your career.
Right. And then there's stuff that you just end up remembering that you like, I'm never going to remember this. I know I'm going to always have to look this up because there's some block like printf decoders and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. Like the stuff for parsing strings into dates, like that is always a Google search for me, because I'm not going to remember all the details there. Thank you for watching this segment of the Python Bytes podcast. This video was made during the recording of the full episode. Visit Python Bytes